الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع نهجهم إلى يوم الدين. Afterwards فسوف نستمر بهذه الحلقة التي نتكلم حول مصطلح الحديث. كما قد عرفنا أننا قد تحدثنا عن الأقسام للأخبار. لقد تكلمنا حول الأحاديث المشهورة أو أحاديث المتواترة وأقسامها، وتكلمنا حول أقسام الآحاد بحسب الرتبة وبحسب طرق نقله إلينا. واليوم إن شاء الله سوف نبدأ بالمناقشة حول ما يستفاد من أحاديث الأخبار من الأحاديث الآحاد. As we have discussed earlier regarding the classification of the narration, the popular one, the viral one, famous one, and the flimsy one also. So in the previous discussion, we discussed about what is known as the classification of unimorphic narration based on merits, of which we discussed about الصحيح لذاته، صحيح لغيره، الصحيح لغيره، حسن لذاته، حسن لغيره، والضعيف, and also الضعيف. So we have discussed the entire basic classification of al-ahad based on merits: the authentic narration, the authentic due to other, satisfactory narration due to other narration. And also we discuss about a kind of flimsy narration, a kind of weak narration. So our discussion now would be ما يستفاد من هذا. What can we understand? What are the learning outcomes from this? What can we understand from that is Hadith al-Ahad? What are the learning outcomes? What are the benefits to be obtained in Hadith al-Ahad? So we are going to proceed with a discussion rolled by Sheikh Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymin in Mustalah al-Hadith, of which is our final proceeding. وتفيد أخبار الآحاد سوى الضعيفة. وتفيد أخبار الآحاد سوى الضعيف. The narrations from unimorphic narration, from a kind of al-ahad, can provide some of the information beside a kind of flimsy narration. وتفيد أخبار الآحاد سوى الضعيفة, meaning the learning outcomes which are to be obtained from unimorphic narration, a kind of narration that is not viral, beside a weak narration. So the learning outcomes to be obtained are as follows. وتفيد أخبار الآحاد, the narration which is not viral can provide سوى الضعيفة, beside a weak narration. If you exclude the fifth class, that is the weak one, الضعيف, so it provides some of the information as follows. أولا, the first of it, that is firstly الظن وهو رجحان الصحة. It can provide hypothesis. It can give a kind of hypothesis. وهو رجحان صحة نسبتها إلى من نقلت عنه. That is a kind of transcendent of authenticity from the one that particular information was obtained from him. So this is one of the learning outcome. For you to have a kind of expectation that particular information was obtained from the person who uttered that, or from the person who originated that. So this is one of the basic learning outcome from Ahadith الآحاد. So he proceed to mention وتفيد أخبار الآحاد سوى الضعيفة أولا الظن وهو رجحان الصحة. Hypothesis, that is expectation, or can say hypothesis, وهو رجحان صحة نسبتها إلى من نقلت عنه, that is transcending authenticity by referring to that which was obtained from so person. So you would have a kind of reliance that yes, indeed, this statement came from the person who uttered that. Maybe you would have a kind of hypothesis, or you would have a kind of certainty that this information was obtained from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. ويختلف ذلك بحسب مراتبها السابقة, and this can differ based on the aforementioned merits. ويختلف ذلك, that can be differed بحسب مراتبها السابقة, based on the previous merits. So like if it is authentic, or it is authentic due to another narration, or it is a kind of satisfactory narration, or satisfactory narration due to other narration. So based on this kind of classes you will have this kind of learning significance. وربما تفيد العلم, however it can also provide knowledge. It can provide knowledge, another knowledge, a new knowledge. إذا احتفت بها القرائن, when it is surrounded by indicators, when it is surrounded by some of the majors. So if there are some of the majors or indicators accompanied by that narration, so you would attain a particular knowledge, or you would have a new insight regarding some of the matters. وشهدت بها الأصول, and when the foundational theories, the basic theories testify to that. So you know we have usul and furu. The usul are known, and the furu are also, they are known, they are many. So when a kind of information is reported from a kind of narration which is not valid, and that narration comes with something which is unknown, but that unknown is surrounded, or it is accompanied by some of the common terms, some of the indicators, some of the majors, or it is or there are some of the basic foundational theories that accompanied that. So definitely you can consider that as a valid narration. So these are some of the points related to the الأحاديث الآحاد. ثانيا, second one, العمل بما دلت عليه. العمل بما دلت عليه, working by that which it indicates, meaning practicing that which it indicates, performing whatsoever that came from that narration if it is of action. بتصديقه إن كان خبرا, to testify to it, to believe in that if it is a kind of narration. If it is a story, so you have to believe in that. That's why part of the شروط أن محمد رسول الله طاعته فيما أمر وتصديقه فيما أخبر واجتناب ما نهى عنه وزجر وأن لا يعبد الله إلا بما شرع والاتصال على الأمل بسنته وترك ما عداها أو ترك ما خالفها من البدع والمحدثات أو ترك ما نهى عنه من البدع والمحدثات. So if it is a kind of story that was obtained from that narration, you need to believe in that, you need to trust that, you have to, that is believe in that kind of story. So this is one of the learning outcome that you can identify or you can extract from, that is non-viral narration. So non-viral narration can be in use when it is according to the non-theories, foundational theories, or it is according to some of the indicators, some of the, like for example, made as some of the parameters. For example, you know already this is this, and when a kind of incident is reported related to that, you can consider that incident, for example. So that's it. So وتطبيقه إن كان طلبه, and practicing that, acting on that if it is a kind of request. So if it came with a kind of request, if the incident is reported or the information that came is a kind of request, and that request is based on the common terms, it is based on the foundational theories, it doesn't contradict any, that is known ethics and etiquettes. So by that you would be able to act onto that because it came in a kind of request. For example, like if I narrate something that so person said you should wash your hand, for example, you should sanitize your environment. So you see, it's something that is known. So even if my statement is not viral, you can just tag it, you can act on that because it is a kind of request. So that's how it is. أما الضعيفة, but as for the weak one, if the narration is a flimsy one, it is a kind of weak narration, فلا يفيد الظن ولا العمل. It will not give any kind of hypothesis. It will not provide any hypothesis. It will not even give any kind of supposition, ولا العمل, or any action. So it doesn't give any kind of hypothesis. If it is a kind of weak narration, it is a kind of flimsy one. Suppose if it is a kind of lie, for example, well, so you know it is a weak one, it is a weak narration, it is a flimsy one, so you will just reject that. So you will not work by it. You have to work by certitudes. You have to work by certitudes. So if it is a kind of fake narration, so you are not to work by that. So if the hadith is ضعيف, you are not to work by that. ولا يجوز اعتباره دليلا ولا ذكره غير مقرون ببيان ضعفه إلا بالترغيب والترهيب. And it is not lawful by observing the dalil, the evidence, ولا ذكره, or to mention it, غير مقرون ببيان ضعفه, without amalgamating that, without joining that with the explanation of its weakness. So likewise, you are not to observe it or to consider it as a kind of evidence, or for you to mention it without amalgamating it with the statement, with a kind of statement, with a kind of clarification that this is a weak narration. So that's how it is. If an information is a weak one, it is a fake one. So do not disseminate it, unless if you are going to mention that information, you want to report it by saying, that is accompanying by amalgamating with a statement that shows its weakness. Like for example, I would say someone narrated to me, or he reported to me, or he mentioned to me that so incident happened in so place, but according to the information I had, it is a kind of fake information, or there is no any reliable source to that, or there is no confirmation and such. So this is accepted. But for you to narrate the incident, or to narrate the report, or to narrate the information as you know it is a fake one, without clarification, without mentioning that it is a weak one, it is a flimsy one, then you are going to cheat. For example, you are going to trick humans, you are going to trick the people, your community. So you have to explain. So this is one of the issues that we should understand in terms of dealings, or that is dealing with the flimsy narrations, fake narrations. So that's it. So you need to have the protocols to follow in evaluating, identifying whether this narration is a flimsy, it's a fake, this information is fake or not. If you just post whatsoever that come to your side, or you share, or you disseminate whatsoever that came to you, then you would be in a kind of problematic situation, because you fail to carry out the entire task. Because for information you need to verify. There is need for verification to know whether it is authentic or not, whether it is a fake, for example, or a satisfactory one. So in terms of information, the one that is accepted, the one that is pleasant, the one that is adequate is the one that is either authentic or satisfactory one. A flimsy narration, a flimsy report, a flimsy information, a weak information, or a fake information cannot be accepted, but rather it has consequences. So you should also pay, that is the consequences of your report or your actions. So likewise, you are to mention fake information, but with amalgamating it with the clarification that this is a fake information, so you should take note on it. Otherwise, it would become a kind of hazard to the environment, to yourself also. So that's one of the issues that we should understand. إلا في الترغيب والترهيب, except in terms of giving inspirations, or giving happiness stories, that is glad tidings. In terms of giving inspirations, you can mention flimsy narrations in order to inspire someone to do something which is good, but this is not in terms of devotional act or in terms of theology. That is in normal routine. For example, if you want to inspire someone to do something, not in ibadah, so you can, that is, utilize a flimsy narration, the kind of narration that you are not certain with it. You can utilize it in order to inspire someone to do, like some of the, for example, teachers, lecturers, some of the, that is, wise men used to do. They would come with some of the statement or quotations in order to inspire people, but that quotation has no any background, or it is not a kind of satisfactory or authentic one. So that's it. So what tarhib and warning, giving warning. So you can mention a flimsy statement, that's according to what Uthaymin mentioned, what tarhib. So this is based on other issues, not in theology, not in ibadah. For example, in normal, that is a routine, you can inspire someone with a kind of quotation even if you don't have the certitude on it. You can, for example, mention a statement of warning in order to make people to take heed on that which is being warned against. For example, not in terms of theology or in terms of devotional act. So that it. فقد سهل في ذكره جماعة بثلاثة شروط, because there are some of the people that they have given a respite in mentioning a flimsy narration based upon some of the conditions, and the conditions are as follows. الأول ألا يكون الضعف شديدا, ألا يكون الضعف شديدا, to ensure that that weakness should not be a monumental one. You should ensure that the weakness in that information, it is not a kind of monumental one. So if it is not a monumental one, it is a kind of lesser weakness, so you can state that. But if the weakness is a kind of strong one, it is a kind of great weakness, so no need of you to mention that. As far as it is not monumental weakness, so you can give a kind of highlight to that. So what we can understand here, if the weakness is totally contradicting what is known, other foundational theories, for example, so you cannot mention that. Otherwise, if you mention that, you are trying to dismantle the foundational theories, and it is a kind of wrongdoing, or for example, wrong analysis you are trying to do. So in this regards, you are to mention in one of the conditions. One of the conditions is that to make sure that that weakness is not a monumental one. If the weakness is less in the information, if there are weaknesses, but the weaknesses are not monumental weaknesses, so no problem with mentioning that. And as I mentioned previously, if you are to mention a weak narration, or an information that you don't have, that is a certain referral or certain reference to that, or any kind of citation to that. So if there is a need to mention it or to say it, try as such to amalgamate by the clarification of its weakness. An information came to me according to so person, or according to this, according to that, but I don't have certainty in that. There is no any confirmation in the authenticity of this information. So you should take note on this. So you should not react to this kind of information. This is accepted, but just to mention something which is totally inadequate, which is against the common terms, or which is against the foundational theories, so this cannot be accepted. It cannot, and it can never be approved in terms of the field of information collateral, or for example in the field of hadith. This will not be accepted. الثاني, the second one, أن يكون أصل العمل الذي ذكر فيه الترغيب والترهيب ثابتا. It should be, you should ensure that the origin of that action, that the inspiration or the warning we mentioned, it is a kind of confirmatory one. Maybe the action that came within that information, or for example the information came with a kind of request to act on something. So in that information, the inspiration that came within, or for example a kind of warning that came within, should be a kind of confirmatory one. Normally, if an information comes in form of request, so what is annoying, what is indicating, is based on two factors: either inspiration, to inspire you to do something, or warning, meaning to abstain yourself from doing something, or for example to abstain yourself from getting into wrongdoing or something like that. So two factors are related to a kind of information that comes in form of request. So request come with two factors: at-targhib wa tarhib, and that's it. And that's even for the ibadah. You are doing the ibadah between raghbah wa rahbah, between inspiration or wishes and warning, scary, for example. So we are scared of getting into some kind of hardship or difficulties or consequence, and you are wishing to attain, for example, success, or to get a reward, for example, to get rewarded by that action that you are willing to do, or the action that you performed. So likewise, if the information comes with a kind of request of an action to act on something, so the inspiration or the warning that came within should be a satisfactory one, should be a confirmatory one, that this is confirmed, that yes, indeed, the information is like this, or the information is like that. Like for example, if you come across any information with a kind of terms and policies, so that information, the terms and policies that are within should be a confirmatory one. If someone just give you terms or conditions without confirming, and you just sign on it, or you accept that, so maybe there would be a time which you would regret on doing that. And this is one of the mistakes that so many people are doing today. They would go to some of the platforms, they would see the terms and policies, but they will not read those terms and policies. They would just go randomly, or they would just scroll down to the bottom in order to click the accept, that is button. So in this regard, there would be a time maybe you will regret on doing such kind of action. So verify, go through it one after the other, go through it serially. Do not just go randomly. So you cannot collect information or accept information randomly if it is a kind of information that is very vital to you, or to your society, or to your community, or to your well-being. Allah musta'an. So this is one of the condition. And thirdly, the third condition, ألا يعتقد أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قاله. You should not have the belief that the Messenger of Allah is the one that said that. You should have this. You should not believe that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one that mentioned that. So if a kind of narration is flimsy one, the hadith is da'if, so there is no any way that you can attribute that to the Rasul. Do not have such kind of empathy. Do not have such kind of expectation or reliance. You should not attribute that to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam or to refer it to him. If it is weak, if it is da'if, so it is da'if, it is a weak one. There is no way to confirm that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one who recommend with that, or who authored that, or that was obtained from him. So that's it. And likewise, in our common life scenarios, if the channel of the report or the reporter, for example, or the source of the information has weakness, a kind of tremendous weakness, so you cannot just give a kind of confirmation that this is the real scenario, or this is the real happening, or this is the fact of the incident. So you cannot do that, for example. So that's it. So without this kind of terms, there would be problems. So by maintaining these terms, everything would be okay for us. Everything would be pleasant to our situation. And that's the third one. You cannot, that is, believe or have the certainty that this is from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these are the three conditions that you should maintain while dealing with fake narrations. The person that narration was referred to him, you should not accept that it is from him, or it is from so person, or from her, for example, because the narration is a flimsy one. And you should know, if it comes with a kind of request, for example, we know there are some of the issues that happen in some of the pandemic and endemic situations, whereby fake information was spread and people began to react to it. So if a kind of information comes with a request, before reacting to that, try as much as possible to verify. You should know the inspiration that comes within that, or for example, the warning within that request should be a confirmatory one. And likewise, the weakness, if you are going to utilize it, if you want to mention that statement or that report or that information, so it should not be a kind of information with a kind of monumental weakness. Otherwise, if it comes with a kind of monumental weakness and you disseminate it to the people, so you are trying to dismantle the common terms or the foundational theories, and that's how it is. If you come with a kind of da'if, a hadith da'ifa, while reciting it to the people, reading that or sharing those ahadith to the people, definitely this ahadith would react against the usul and even to the furu'ah. So that's the consequence of using fake narrations or flimsy narrations, or what you can say, weak narrations. وعلى هذا, based on this, فيكون فائدة ذكره في الترغيب. So the benefit in mentioning it would be just on inspirations. So based on the inspiration within, حث النفس على العمل المركب, it will inspire the mind towards the action that was inspired. So the action that was recommended will have a kind of that is, the heart will have a kind of inspiration towards the action that was recommended. So this is one of the learning outcome. So فيه لرجاء حصول ذلك الثواب. وعلى هذا, based on this, فيكون فائدة ذكره the benefit in mentioning it, the benefit in mentioning a flimsy narration, بالترغيب in inspirations, like for example in inspirational words or statement or sayings. For example, حث النفس على العمل المركب, it can inspire the mind towards the recommended action. المرغب فيه, the action that was recommended within that statement, لرجاء حصول ذلك الثواب, with the expectation of obtaining the reward in that particular reward. ثم إن حصل, then if it happened, if it occurred, وإلا لم يضره اجتهاده. If for example a person can have this kind of advantage, otherwise لم يضره اجتهاده, his determination will not harm him, just to, that is to go on his own, for example. So if it is something that there is no any information on it, no any ruling on it, so there is no problem on you taking your own, that is way, your determination will not harm you. لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم. Do not ask about some of the matters. When it becomes clear to you, it will grieve you. So there are some of the matters that were not discussed, for example, like someone to ask you, for example, in the Q&A, that is it halal to click, that is to use emoji or something like that, or is it halal to click that is thumbs bottom, or such kind of information. Yes, if you such kind of information, the rulings are there, for example, mentioned by the righteous predecessors, like Al-Ibana, the book of Al-Ibana of Ibn Battah, Ibanatul Kabra. Such kind of information we highlighted the rulings, but the rulings are not derived directly to this kind of development issues, for example. So asking for that is good, for example. So if someone did not ask and he just go into that, he used that, no problem on his determination, because it is based on his surmise, for example. So no problem on that. If you take your surmise, you follow it on such kind of information that are not from the furu'a or from the usul, something that there is no clear information on it. So if you wish, you can take that is a kind of unsatisfactory saying of someone, for example, but even if you did not work by weak narrations or flimsy narrations, you take your determination on such matters, that will not harm you. So this is one of the issues. So what we will understand, you are to establish your way based on authentic information, based upon satisfactory information, the information that is good, not the one that is evil, or the one that is flimsy, or the one that is weak. So this is one of the issues that we should try as such to understand. So ولم يفته الثواب الأصلي المرتب على القيام بالمأمور, and the reward, the original reward المرتب, which is established على القيام بالمعروف, in standing by the commandment, will not, that is, escape him. ولم يفته الثواب, and the reward will not escape him, will not miss him, he will not miss the rewards. Al-Asali, the original reward, the one that came from the origin. Al-Murattab, the one that was established. Al-Qiyam bil-Ma'mur, on standing by the recommendation. So if that unsatisfactory narration come with a kind of recommendation, so as far as you verify, you know it is a kind of weak hadith, even if you do not act with the information or with the kind of request that came from that, no problem on that. If you take your positioning, you take your determination, that will not harm you, and the reward that will be related to that will not miss you. So that's it. So it is based on determination. So you have to establish your way based on authentic, satisfactory narrations. So if you are to work by fake news, so there are some of the situations, some of the conditions that you should maintain. You should ensure the weakness in that information is not a kind of monumental one. Like for example, today the comedians, for example, they use some of the statement. You know by yourself, they know by themselves that it is not real. For example, it is not real life scenarios, because the statement, if you look, most of the statement, if you look sometime, they are not with a kind of monumental that is a defect, or monumental that is a weakness. So but if it is a kind of grievous that is evil or harm within that information, so it's better not to mention it. Do not act by that, and you should ensure, if it come in a form of a request, the inspiration within that request or the wording within that request should be a confirmatory one, to be among the ethics, something that is known. If it maintains the ethics, so no problem with that. For example, like today, in terms of the health issues, there are some of the precautions that are applied to other diseases, and also they are also applied to new emergence that is situations, even if they are not that is a kind of confirmed one to that particular that is situation, that particular disorder or disease, for example, or infection. So likewise in this, you would be able to that is program your way, for example, in dealing with fake narrations, or for example weak narrations, and you should ensure that you should not refer that to the person that it was reported that it was obtained from him. As far as you identify a weakness, maybe the one that said that so person mentioned this, also so and so had happened in so place, so do not just agree or approve that it happened without that is verification. As such, you identify some of the weaknesses, so it is indicating that you cannot refer that to that particular place or to that particular individual or to the kind of object which is identified with, as far as there is weakness within. So I think due to the time limitation, we are going to take our stoppage point here. We are going to stop here, so we are going to that is stop in the last point. وفائدة ذكره في الترهيب, and benefit of mentioning a weak narration in terms of warning. تنفير النفس عن الأمل المرحب. It تنفير النفس, it takes the mind away, it plucks the mind away عن الأمل المرحب, from that dreadful action, from that evil action, from that action that the warning is upon. المرحب عنه للخوف من وقوع ذلك العقاب, by having a kind of scary feeling of existing or the existence of that penalty or that action. So if a kind of weak narration comes, weak information, by saying that if you do so action, or you perform, or you do so action, there will be penalty. If you commit a particular action, there will be a penalty, or there will be punishment, or there will be consequence. So if this kind of statement is highlighted in this way, it can trigger the heart or the mind of the people or the mind of human to abstain from it, because he will have a kind of reason that there will be penalties, so he don't want to get into this kind of punishment or that kind of penalty. So this is one of the benefits of mentioning a statement with a kind of weakness as such. ولا يضره إذا اجتنبه, if he abstain from that action, that will not harm him, it will never harm him, it will never harm that particular individual. ولم يقع العقاب المذكور, and the penalty will not occur, the punishment will not occur. So this is one of the issue. So if the inspiration discuss about a reward that you would get if you do this, or a kind of punishment that you would approach if you do this or if you commit so action. So if you take your determination by knowing that this is a weak statement, there is no confirmation in that, there is no any verification and the authenticity or validity of this information. So if you abstain from that information, no problem, there is no blame on you. So that it, you should try as such to take precautions to, that is to take the hidden this kind of matters, because today situations are changing. For example, new things are happening, different characters are developing. For example, you would come across so many issues. For example, something or a kind of information or somebody that you have the thought of him or her helping you in the other way, that particular person or that individual will try to harm you, for example, or to like for example to violate your right, for example, or any other way, for example, or any other issues. So with this, we'd be able to know how to react to weak narrations or flimsy narrations or fake narrations, as you can call it. So by this, I think we are going to stop. We are going to proceed. شرح تعريف الصحيح لذاته. The explanation in detail, a detailed explanation related to a kind of authentic narration based on its normality, authentic in its nature, a kind of narration that is authentic in its nature. As we know, we have discussed that authentic narration ما رواه عدل تام الضبط وسلم من الشذوذ والعلة القادحة is a kind of narration whereby the narrator is a competent person full of reputations, and that narration is free from any kind of conjecture or a kind of hideous defect. So each of these points that we mentioned earlier, we would discuss it in detail. If we say al-adala al-rawi wal-marwi, what does that mean? In the field of mustalah al-hadith, what is the meaning of al-adala? What is the meaning of al-dawabit, for example? And what is the meaning of al-shuzuz? What is the meaning of al-illa? Illat rawi or al-marwi? So with respect to riwayah and diraya, we are going to discuss these issues. I think due to the time limitation, we are going to stop here. Whatsoever we have discussed of that is of good or beneficial, we ask the Almighty to reward us in it, and whatsoever that interface of any kind of indecent statement or weak statement, we ask the Almighty to erase that from our deeds. So I think we are going to stop here. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.